You know what's crazy? A high credit score will not make you rich. And if you don't understand why, you might spend the next 20 years optimizing the wrong scoreboard. I'm going to show you exactly what actually builds wealth. And by the end of this video, you'll realize something that might completely flip the way you think about good financial behavior. And here's the payoff. If you shift your focus from credit optimization to wealth acceleration, even by a small amount, the difference over 10 years could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is where it gets interesting, because most people think credit score equals financial success. It doesn't. It equals borrowability, and borrowability is not wealth. Here's what most people don't realize. Your credit score measures how good you are at being in debt. That's it. It measures how reliably you pay back money you borrowed. It does not measure how much you own. It does not measure how much cash flow you generate. It does not measure how much money is invested and compounding for you. You can have an 800 credit score and be broke. You can have a 650 credit score and be worth $5 million. And that should bother you a little, because we've been trained to chase the wrong metric. Let me explain. Imagine two people. Person A has an 800 credit score. They have 5 credit cards, a car loan, and a mortgage. They pay everything on time. Their total debt, $280,000. Their net worth may be $10,000 after subtracting everything. Person B has a 670 credit score. They use one card. They rarely borrow. They own a small business that generates $15,000 a month in profit. They have $300,000 invested in index funds. Which one is actually rich? Now, you might be thinking, but you need good credit to buy a house. Sure, you need decent credit to access debt at reasonable rates. But here's the thing, access to debt is a tool. Wealth is the outcome, and tools are useless if you don't know what you're building. Here's how this becomes dangerous. Psychologically, we love metrics. We love numbers that make us feel accomplished. Credit score is visible. It's gamified. You log into an app and it tells you, great job, you're excellent. And that little dopamine hit, it tricks you into thinking you're winning financially. Meanwhile, your investment account might be empty. Your net worth might be flat. Your income might not be growing, but your score is up 12 points. And that feels like progress. This is where it gets interesting. According to FICO data, around 23% of Americans have a credit score above 800. 23%. But according to Federal Reserve data, the median retirement savings for Americans aged 45 to 54 is around $115,000. $115,000. That is not enough to retire comfortably. So we have millions of people who are excellent borrowers and underprepared investors. That's a problem. And I'm going to show you why this gap exists. But first, let me say something slightly controversial. If you're in your 20s or 30s and you're obsessing over getting your credit score from 780 to 820, instead of increasing your income by 20%, you're focusing on the wrong game. Let's do some math. Suppose you have a 780 credit score. That already qualifies you for top-tier mortgage rates in most cases. Now you spend the next 12 months micromanaging credit utilization, opening and closing cards, stressing over inquiries, and you bump it to 820. What did that get you? Maybe 0.1% lower interest rate on a mortgage. On a $300,000 loan, that might save you around $15 a month. $15. Now compare that to increasing your income by $5,000 a year. That's over $400 a month. Which lever matters more? This is the part most people don't think about. They're optimizing pennies when they should be building engines. And here's the deeper psychology behind it. Improving your credit score feels safe. Starting a side business feels risky. Learning to invest feels uncertain. Negotiating your salary feels uncomfortable. So we default to the thing that makes us feel productive without exposing us to rejection. Credit optimization is financial procrastination disguised as responsibility. Now don't get me wrong, you should have a solid credit score. 700 plus is great, but once you're there, the marginal return of obsessing over it drops dramatically. And here's how real wealth actually works. Wealth is built through 3 core drivers: income growth, ownership, time. Notice what's not on that list. Credit score. Here's the thing. Rich people focus on assets. Assets produce cash flow. Cash flow gets reinvested. Reinvestment compounds. Credit score just determines how cheap it is to borrow money. That's it. Let's break this down with real numbers. If you invest $500 a month starting at age 25, earning an average annual return of 8%, By age 65, you'd have about $1.5 million. 1.5 million. That's the power of time and ownership. Now imagine you delayed that by 10 years because you were getting your finances in order and focusing on paying off a low interest car loan early just to boost your credit. Start at 35 instead. Now you end up with around $680,000. You just lost over $800,000. Not because your credit was bad, but because your investments didn't start early enough. This is where it gets uncomfortable. Most people are more afraid of a 700 credit score than they are of having zero investments at age 30. That's backwards. Let's zoom out. A high credit score helps you borrow money cheaply. Borrowing money cheaply can help you buy assets. Buying assets can build wealth. But here's the catch. Most people don't borrow to buy assets. They borrow to buy liabilities, cars, furniture, vacations, consumer electronics. So now their excellent credit score just enabled faster consumption. And consumption is the opposite of wealth creation. Here's what most people don't realize. The average car payment in the United States is now over $700 a month, according to Experian. $700. If instead you invested that $700 monthly at 8% for 30 years, you'd have over $1 million. $1 million. So when someone tells me they have an 820 credit score and a $700 car payment, I'm not impressed. I'm concerned because the system is working against them and they don't even see it. Now you might be thinking, don't wealthy people use debt? Yes, but they use debt strategically. They use it to acquire income producing assets, rental properties, businesses, leverage investments. They don't use it to look rich. This is where the mindset shift happens. Poor mindset, how do I qualify for more debt? Wealth mindset, how do I generate more ownership? And that brings us to the real formula. Here's how you actually get rich. Step 1, increase your income aggressively. Step 2, keep your lifestyle inflation slower than your income growth. Step 3, invest the difference into appreciating income producing assets. Step 4, repeat for a decade. That's it. Simple. Not easy, but simple. Let's talk income, because income is the foundation. You can't invest what you don't earn. If you're making $40,000 a year and saving 10%, that's $4,000 annually. At 8% return after 30 years, that becomes about $490,000. Good, but not life-changing. Now increase income to $80,000 and save 20%. That's $16,000 per year, same 30 years. Now you have nearly $2 million. Same person, same return, different income and savings rate. That's leverage, not credit leverage. Human capital leverage. This is why focusing on skill development, career growth, and entrepreneurship in your 20s is massively more impactful than micromanaging your credit utilization ratio from 12% to 8%. This is where it gets interesting. Most people will spend 5 hours researching how to increase their credit score by 20 points, but 0 hours learning how to increase their earning potential by $10,000 a year. Why? Because income growth requires identity change. Credit optimization does not. You can improve your credit without becoming a different person. But to increase your income, you might need to develop new skills, change jobs, face rejection, start something uncertain. That's uncomfortable. And comfort is expensive. Now let's talk ownership. This is the part that actually builds wealth. When you buy a stock, you own a piece of a business. When you buy real estate, you own property. When you build a business, you own cash flow. Ownership means someone else is working to make you money. A credit score does not produce cash flow. An asset does. Let's look at an example. Imagine you build a small online business that generates $2,000 a month in profit. That's $24,000 a year. If you sell that business at a modest multiple of 3 times earnings, that's $72,000 in value. That's wealth. Now compare that to someone who spent those same years perfecting their credit profile but built no assets. One has something that produces money. The other has a score that allows them to borrow. See the difference? This is why I get slightly frustrated when people brag about their credit score like it's a trophy. It's not a trophy. It's a tool. And tools only matter if you're building something. Here's what most people don't realize. Net worth is the real scoreboard. Assets minus liabilities. Not FICO minus nothing. You could have a 700 score and 0 debt and $50,000 invested. That's stronger than an 800 score and negative net worth. Now let's address the objection. Okay, but bad credit can hurt you. Yes, terrible credit like below 600 can increase interest rates, make renting harder, limit flexibility. So here's the balanced truth. Get your credit to good. Then shift your focus to great wealth. Good credit is like having a working car. Necessary, but not the destination. You don't polish the car endlessly instead of driving somewhere meaningful. And here's the surprising reveal. Many millionaires don't obsess over credit at all. According to a study by Ramsey Solutions surveying over 10,000 millionaires, the majority did not attribute their wealth to credit card rewards, leverage, or advanced debt strategies. They attributed it to consistent investing, living below their means, and avoiding unnecessary debt. Consistency beats optimization. Let me say that again. Consistency beats optimization. You don't get rich by squeezing every point out of a credit algorithm. You get rich by consistently owning productive assets for a long period of time. And this brings me to the final psychological shift. Credit score culture encourages consumption. Wealth culture encourages patience. Credit score says, you qualify. Wealth says, can I afford the opportunity cost? Before you buy that $60,000 car, ask yourself, if I invested that money instead, what would it become in 20 years? At 8%, $60,000 becomes around $280,000 in 20 years. Is the car worth $280,000 future dollars? Maybe, probably not. This is where it gets powerful. When you start thinking in opportunity cost instead of monthly payments, your entire financial life changes. Instead of asking, can I afford the payment? You ask, what is this costing my future? That's how rich people think. Not about approval, about allocation. So here's what I want you to do. First, check your credit score. If it's above 700, great. Stop obsessing. Automate payments. Keep utilization reasonable. Move on. Second, calculate your net worth. Write down everything you own. Subtract everything you owe. That number matters more than your credit score. Third, focus on increasing income. Learn a high-value skill. Negotiate your salary. Start a side income stream. Build something that can scale. Fourth, invest automatically. Index funds, retirement accounts, assets that grow. Even $500 a month is powerful over time. And finally, shift your identity. Stop identifying as someone with great credit. Start identifying as someone who builds assets. Because here's the truth. A high credit score might get you approved, but ownership gets you free. And freedom is the goal, not approval. If you spend the next decade building income, investing consistently, and keeping your lifestyle under control, you won't just have an 800 credit score. You'll have options, you'll have leverage, you'll have time, and one day, someone will brag about their credit score to you, and you'll smile because you'll know the real game, and you'll be winning it.